This is take two of my interview with the writer, Stephen Graham Jones. I'm going to say again, this is a man who is incredibly prolific. He's written over 30 novels in different genres. He's primarily known for horror, but that is not all he writes. He is also a teacher. He's a professor of English at, oh, here he is, Boulder. And I started a book club recently called the Madwoman's Library. Oh, hi.
I can hear you. I can hear you.
Yes, I can hear you too. We
Wonderful.
did it. Thank you for joining me in this chaotic
Oh man.
Instagram Live.
Man, well, I think all the chaos is my fault. I'm sorry for that.
I don't think it's your fault. I
Mhm.
think that we just don't know quite what we're doing. I've never done this before. Okay, I was just telling them just a little bit about you and about your work. Um, and I was reading a bunch of your interviews prepping for this. And I've never interviewed anyone on
Mhm.
Instagram Live like this before, so please bear with me. But I was fascinated with like your origin story because it didn't sound like you planned on writing your whole life. You went to school
Mhm.
for philosophy. So what led you down this path?
You know, no, you're right. I was a philosophy major in undergrad, but before that, I never planned on um going to college. I never planned on anything but being a farmer. I was just going to
Mm.
drive tractor my whole life. That's where I grew up. That's what you do. You grow up, you drive tractor. So I didn't need high school for that. I didn't even graduate high school. And then the only reason I wound up at college was because I had randomly taken the SATs due to the fact that a girl I wanted to date was taking the SATs, so I signed up. And so I had the SATs in my pocket. And then when I went kind of around the side and got my high school diploma, alternative school route, my mother took me out to dinner and she said, um, you got to get out of this town or it's going to kill you. And she gave me a suitcase and she said, you've always been reading books, so you should be among people who read books. So she said she'd saved up enough to send me to one semester of school. So I went up. I figured I could put off driving tractor for 4 months, and I went up to school. And for the first time in my life, the second week of class, I remember I was we had been assigned a book on Thursday. We showed up for class on Tuesday, and I was in class with, I think, 16 or 17 other people. Every person had read the book. My whole life growing up, I was always the only one who read the book. And
Mm-hmm.
that's not like a social advantage, necessarily.
Yes.
And but I had never experienced, I didn't know there were other people who read books. I always thought I was the weirdo, but I found my weirdos
Uh,
and yeah, but I was a philosophy major. Um and my second semester of school, I'm 19 years old. I'm in the back of a monster classroom. When my advisor had said, do you want to take a monster class? Before he was even finished, I said, yes, of course I want to take a monster class. Turns out what a monster class meant at the school I was going to was a class with 350 people in an auditorium. It was monster in size, not content.
wow. Right. Not
Yeah.
like actually monsters.
No, that's what I teach a monster lecture course now, but no, it was not actually monsters. And I was sitting in the back with my pen and my notebook. A couple of cops come in, pull me out, and I thought I was in trouble because I was always in trouble back then. But they took me to the hospital because one of my uncles had been hurt very badly, and I was the only family member they could find. So they ditched me there in the ICU, and I stayed with him for 3 days and 3 nights, waiting for him to live or die. And all I had was that pen and that notebook. And I got bored and I wrote a story. And when I came back to my composition classroom on Monday, after missing Wednesday and Friday, I had not written the personal essay I was supposed to write. And so I tore those pages out of my spiral, crimped them at the top, put them on the corner of the instructor's desk. Everyone else had typed theirs up. They had word processors. I just had this spiral. And that instructor should not have read that because it was off assignment and because it was handwritten and torn out of a notebook. But she did. And she gave it to the creative writing faculty who liked it enough to type it up. And they entered it into a departmental contest, which I won and got $50. So that's completely how I landed in writing.
That's wild. I
Mm.
mean, that's a crazy story and a testament to incredible teachers and being able to recognize what
Hmm.
somebody's good at and see that in them and nurture it
Yeah.
because it could have gone the other way. They
Oh
could have
yeah.
not read the paper and you would have been, God, who knows where.
Oh, I know. I would have gone back farming after one semester, probably.
And we would have all missed out on so many stories.
Yeah, but
Um,
maybe I would have been a really good farmer. I don't know.
Maybe, yeah, the paths we don't take. But then what made you continue doing it? Because it's one thing to be like, oh, this is like I've had a little moment of success with
hmm
this, with school, but
hmm
what made you keep going? Because it's not easy.
Um, well, man, if you hadn't added that on the end, it's not easy. That was gonna be my answer, that it's easy.
Okay,
Right,
there you go. Yeah. I
right,
mean, that's
right.
why I kept acting too, in a weird way.
Yeah,
Like it just, the
yeah,
path kept presenting itself to me. Like, here,
yeah.
this is what you're doing, child.
That's exactly it. Yeah, like writing, like putting words on the page has always been second nature to me. So it's something that I could, not like I wouldn't say I could coast through it, but I knew I could do it, that I had a natural aptitude to do it, and so I leaned into it. However, when I was getting my BA after 4 years, my professors started pulling me into their office and saying, "Hey, what about grad school?" And so
Mm.
finally, I asked one of them. I said, "What's grad school?" And they said, "It's more school." And this didn't sound terribly wonderful to me, you know. But they kept bugging me about grad school. So finally, just to satisfy them, I put out one application to philosophy school and one to English to a writing program. And the writing program got back first. And they said, "We'll give you some money." So I went to grad school and kept on doing it. It was like you said, it's just the path kept opening up before me.
Yeah, it's like I don't know if I believe this necessarily, but it seems like there are just things that sometimes you're meant to do. That
hmm
it just is supposed to happen.
Yeah, I
Um,
totally I totally agree. And it's the only thing that I'm remotely good at. I can't do anything but write stories. So I'm really lucky I landed where I did.
yes,
hmm
and we are like I said, we're lucky too.
hmm
The other part of this is that's interesting to me is obviously you don't only write horror, but you
hmm
write a lot of horror, and I think you're probably most famous for that.
hmm
What draws you to that genre in particular, or are you drawn to all genres and you just happen to, I don't know, like what is it for you?
Yeah, I mean, I do consider myself a horror writer for sure. Even when I write science fiction or fantasy or literary fiction or whatever other genre, Western, I end up cutting off heads and opening stomachs, and it gets violent fast. There's always blood on the walls. That's just my impulse or my instinct as a writer, my predilection. Um, but I do like to write in other genres, crime, thriller, um, like I was saying, Western, science fiction, fantasy. I want to do them all. Like, I remember reading no, I remember a professor telling us about Robert Browning when we were reading some Robert Browning poems when I was a grad student. And he was kind of making fun of Robert Browning because at 17 or 18, Robert Browning had made a list of all the things he wanted to do. He wanted to be like a great composer, a great poet, a great dramatist, like all these, he wanted to be the top of everything.
Mm.
And I remember I wasn't laughing because I'm like, yeah, that makes sense, because I want to write the best science fiction, the best fantasy, the best horror. But because of my impulses and just my tastes and how I'm hardwired, I do land on horror the most often. As for what draws me to it, what I really appreciate about horror is um, it's so operatic. It's so
Mm.
the stakes are really high. The emotions are ramped up all the time. It's like being 17 and you're a junior in high school. Like everything means a lot,
Mm.
And I kind of miss that. And so I think that's a really big part of what draws me to horror.
Oh, that's fascinating. I hadn't thought of it that way, but it's
hmm
absolutely true. And you know, I came from when I was my early reading days were very
hmm
much, Anne of Green Gables and
hmm
like very, very lovely, sweet books. And
hmm
I only started reading horror during the pandemic because I got to this place where I was like, I want to read as broadly as I can. So I read some horror. I got into fantasy like N.K. Jemisin, and I just started opening up my scope. I read your book. It just started to build, and
hmm
I do think there is like an intensity to the feeling that you don't get in, I think, most literary fiction, where it's beautiful and subtle, but
hmm
it isn't as like punch you in the face. And there's something about that that is really special and profound.
No, I completely agree. And I think in the current moment, like we all feel like we're in this long, dark horror tunnel. We're like walking through a darkness and there's stuff dripping off the ceiling. There's bad sounds out there. We can hear teeth clattering. We see flashes of eyes and everything. We know that's where we are. You're like making it through the environmental collapse, the political, whatever kind of landscape we want to call it, the pandemic, it's all the things. And I make it sound like we're special. I bet every generation is like, this is as bad as it gets. This is as bad as it gets, you know?
Yes.
Which is not to minimize what we're going through, but still, I don't want to diminish what other people have gone through either, you know? But if we engage a horror story, be it on the screen, the page, the television, wherever, then the wonderful thing about it is after 2 hours or after 350 pages, it draws to a close. And it doesn't really matter if the good guys win or not. What
Mm-hmm.
matters is that it ends. And that tells us that these long, dark, terrible, scary tunnels have a little point of light at the end.
Mm-hmm.
And if we can believe that, then we can believe that our long, dark tunnel has an end as well. And it may be a train down there, it may not be daylight, but still it's an end of some
Yeah.
sort, you know?
Yeah, there is a finite quality to it.
Hmm.
I suppose that's also what when you're struggling through a depression or anything, it's this too shall pass. This does end. It does not go
Yeah.
on forever. That's
Yep.
lovely.
Yeah,
Okay.
well, I think also horror teaches us to push back against the bullies in our life, you know,
Mm-hmm.
the monsters, the things that have power or dominion over us. It's like in horror, the antagonist is always small. I mean, the antagonist is big and the protagonist is small, you know, but it's a David and Goliath thing. The protagonist uses all their heart, their will, their resources to try to knock down that antagonist. And we have a lot of antagonists we face. It can be a parent, a boss, friends, teachers, whatever. We have bullies, and
Mm-hmm.
we need models for how to push back against those bullies.
It's interesting you say that, and I didn't want to jump into the Buffalo Hunter
Hmm.
just yet, but it made me think of something. When you talk about like it's that book's fascinating because you have a protagonist, but he's
Hmm.
also an antagonist.
Hmm.
Like he is
Hmm.
both. And so when you talk about the David and Goliath of that story, without giving too much away, and we'll come back to it, we'll circle back again, but how do you see that within the Buffalo Hunter?
Yeah, in the Buffalo Hunter, and I guess I did this in the Only Good Indians too. I guess I do it in all my books,
Yes,
probably.
you
I
did,
haven't really,
yeah.
I haven't really thought about it, but I like to I don't believe in that Manichaean good and evil thing. I don't think that it's like two sides of a coin. I think it's more of a spectrum, and there's a lot of gray in the middle.
Hmm.
And I try to kind of strand all my good guys and bad guys, if that's what we want to call them, on in that gray area, so that such that the reader can fall for a bad guy and not agree with what they're doing, but like certain aspects of them. They can believe in the good guy's mission, but not like the means that he or she uses to achieve that mission, and that to me is more um it's a better reflection of the real world, because I think in the real world we all have a little good, we all have a little bad, and on a good day the good wins, but the good doesn't always win.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good way to put it.
Mhm.
And it's true when I read that book,
Mhm.
I mean, I feel like I have a clear protagonist. I
Mhm.
mean, Good Step
Mhm.
feels like my protagonist.
Mhm.
But there are times that he just breaks my heart with his choices.
Mhm.
But that is what makes the book so moving.
Mhm.
And also is, like you say, the substance of our own lives. We
Mhm.
have an idea of who we are and we want
Mhm.
to behave in a certain way, but often we fail and those things are tragedies and it
Mhm.
makes you really connect with that character.
Yeah, yeah, we rationalize away our bad decisions, but that doesn't make them any less bad decisions.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, so the other thing I wanted to talk to you a bit about is your process as a writer, because
Mhm.
as I was researching, I was like, man, you write fast and you
Mhm.
write a lot. And I talked to other writers about, I told them a little bit about the little I knew of your process. And everyone's like, how does he do it? How do you like do you have all these stories in your mind all the time? How do you find space? Like what is your process like?
Um, if I go fast, it's just because I got a cool keyboard, Um,
That's all it is. You
that's
just
all
need
it
a cool
is.
keyboard,
That's
kids.
that's all it is. Yeah. But um, the reason I go fast, really, I mean, it's not. I don't think I have any special like story aptitude, and really, I probably don't type faster than a lot of people. Um, and I definitely don't have more extra time than people to write. I think the reason I write fast is that every time I get into a novel, it takes me about 10 to 12 pages, maybe 15 pages before I lose that line between the real world and the story world. They merge. Like for me to invest emotionally and intellectually in this place enough. such that I can make it real for the reader, I have to erase that line between
Mm,
story and actual. And therefore, I've kind of got a foot in both worlds. Or maybe another way to say it is I don't know where I stand. I'll go to the
mm.
store to get some Frosted Flakes, and I'll just be bopping down the cereal aisle, and I'll stop because I'm 100% sure my character just rounded the corner behind me. And and that's not a good way to live.
I know,
That's
I
not
was
that,
gonna say, it sounds like method acting.
yeah, yeah. It feels like method writing to me. That's the only way I've ever known to write, and it burns you up, and that's why I write fast. It's to get back to where I can have both feet in the real world. Like Buffalo Hunter
Oh.
Hunter took me 10 weeks, and it was a hard race to come back to the real world. But the problem is, I really like to write novels. So I just have these like brief little intermissions where I'm in the real world, and then I jump back into the weird place again.
How does your family handle that?
They handle it well. My kids are both grown, so they don't have to handle it anymore. But but there's my wife. And she like I'll be in here in my study writing for a few hours and not talking to anybody, of course, just talking to my characters, talking to myself. And then I'll come out of the study and just follow her around the house for 45 minutes, just yakking my head, just talking and talking and talking like a machine gun. And she, I don't know how she handles it. She deserves like 16 medals and awards and trophies, because my brain gets going so fast that it won't stop. And I have to like come down with talking to her, you know?
Right, right. That's good.
Mhm.
I mean, good on her. The other part of this that I was interested in is, before I get fully into the book, we don't have a
Mhm.
ton of time left, but
Mhm.
um, is just being a teacher as well.
Mhm.
I feel like I mean, I'm not a teacher, but it feels like teaching is a slightly more analytical place to exist from, whereas your stories seem to come from a very like visceral, almost like they're channeled through you stories.
Mhm.
Does the process of teaching impact how you write? Does it change the way you engage with your stories?
It makes me a better writer, I think, because I'll be in class and I will hear myself laying down some guideline about writing stories or fiction that, I mean, there's nothing absolute, but this works 85% of the time, or it works in my experience, that kind of stuff. Like I'll say
Mm-hmm.
you should do this, not do that. And then 3 hours later, I'm at my fancy keyboard writing, and I hear myself saying that. And I think, oh man, now I got to be better. I got to stick to what I said. I can't be a hypocrite. And so it it's it yeah, it keeps me on the straight and narrow story wise. Like my big goal with students is to instill in them a sense of like narrative ethics, a sense of obligation to story, to
Mm-hmm.
not take the cheap way out, to always have fun and try to be meaningful. Just all the things we think about with story. And if I'm gonna preach that, I have to follow it myself.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
When you talk, there's so many overlaps with acting. It's very interesting.
Really?
Yeah, yeah,
Really?
I think
Oh
so.
wow.
Especially
Wow.
about like, I think you can get a little bit like with performance, you can have flourishes and do all this stuff, and
Hmm.
it really is just about getting clear, getting right into the truth, just
Hmm.
narrowing in, and I feel like there's some similarities that way.
Oh, that's really cool. I like
Yeah.
that.
Okay, let's talk about the Buffalo Hunter Hunter
Hmm.
a little bit more. Do you want to just tell people who haven't read it
Hmm.
a little bit about it so that they can have a sense if they want to go pick it up?
Yeah. Buffalo Hunter Hunter is a found journal, and it's found in a parsonage. It's being rehabbed in Miles City, Montana in 2012. Turns out to have been written a century prior by a Lutheran pastor who recorded a series of interviews or confessions he had on a series of Sundays with a Blackfeet man named Goodstab who claimed to be a vampire. That's basically
Exactly.
it.
Great. Yes.
Mhm.
And it continues on and it's bloody and
Mhm.
sad and angering and all of those wonderful things.
Yeah, yeah.
So with my book club, Madwoman's Library,
Mhm.
there was a lot of interesting discussion that went on about this book. There's a lot of depth in here. You can dig into it in so many different
Mhm.
ways. But something that kept coming up, and you had, when we had emailed back and forth, you had mentioned part of this too, but was about appetite and about consumption and about the desire for whether it's food or whatever it is, and the way that these characters, whether it's, you know, your pastor or
Hmm.
I can't say this, Noxerer,
Hmm.
like
Hmm.
how their relationship to appetite
Hmm.
functions. Could you talk a bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, they're like one of the kind of characteristics I kind of bring to the vampire is that once they latch onto a person or an animal, anything with blood, they can't let go until that thing is either drained or dead, one or the other. They can't like go to the nightclub and sip from six people and get a full meal. They've got to latch on and they can't stop. They're gluttons. They're like it's non-voluntary, involuntary gluttons, basically. And Arthur Bocard, this pastor, is always being delivered dishes by his congregation. And he tells himself, I'm just going to eat a bite today, a bite tomorrow. It's going to last the whole week. And then, you know, by 2 in the afternoon, he has eaten the whole cake. So they're both gluttons. But, you know, I wish I could take credit for like strategizing that parallel, but I never think about things like that. Those things,
Mm,
if they happen, that's great. But the reason I had Arthur have that kind of, I don't know, compulsive eating or just inability to stop, um, was that I kind of had a sense that he wasn't going to be a great guy. Therefore, I knew I had to give him some endearing qualities, and
mhm.
I figured not being able to quite satisfy your sweet tooth might be an endearing quality because a lot of us share that, you know.
Yeah, that's true. It's very relatable. But it
Mhm.
makes me think too, you know, how the bad guy in so many movies is always eating grotesquely,
Mhm.
just like
Mhm. Mhm.
consuming things in this disgusting
Yeah.
fashion. It also makes me think of that. But he
Mhm.
is endearing until he's not,
Mhm.
Bocard.
Mhm.
He
Yeah.
really is.
Yeah.
Um, okay. And you had said you haven't tried any of the foods that he eats in the book?
No, none of them. I'm very unadventurous as far as food goes. I like to eat the same thing every meal if I can. My favorite is Soylent. I drink a lot of Soylent. I love that
Really?
stuff. Yeah, yeah. When I was a kid, I dreamed of that when I grew up there was going to be like I always thought there'd be an astronaut pill. You could just take that and not even have to stop to sit at the table. You know, that's still my dream. I'm still waiting for that to happen.
Oh my God, I can't imagine. I
Mm,
love sweets. I love food so much. I would be
mm.
so sad.
Oh
Um,
man.
you were teaching a class on vampires when you were starting this book or after
Hmm. Hmm.
you started the book right afterward.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, can you can you tell us why you chose the Noxerer idea? Like when we were talking about it in book club, it was there's very little you can find out about that
Hmm.
particular
Hmm.
vampire type, but it seemed like it was about almost like a consumption of one's own dead body and then
Hmm.
others. Is there a
Hmm.
reason you picked it, or was it mostly about the German history? Or
Hmm. It was the German stuff. Like I think, as far as I can recall, the Nachzehrer didn't come into the story as a word, as a term, as a concept until that woman in Arthur's congregation came to the stoop of his church and broke that egg, or accidentally
right?
broke that egg. And I think that's right around when that happens. But I mean, I think I initially put in square brackets Germanic vampire, and then when I had a break, I searched right fast Germanic vampire, and I said not Xerer. So it was just as random as that. You know, it
Oh,
wasn't.
crazy.
Yeah,
Because you can,
yeah.
it's funny when you like analyze text.
Hmm.
Sometimes you can put so much into your
Hmm.
analysis that just
Hmm.
was never intended. And I suppose that's what art
Yeah,
is.
yeah. But I mean, I also think though, it doesn't matter what the writers or what the artists intend. What matters is what people get out of it, what they see, the connections they see, the themes that kind of percolate up, and therefore, when anybody says anything about my books interpretation wise, I just say, sure, yeah, that was probably it's not intentional, but that doesn't mean it's not there, you know.
Mhm, mhm.
Hmm.
The other thing was that this is an epistolary
Hmm.
book. Did you pick that for a specific reason? Were you just playing with the form? I mean, I can read a ton of things into it because that's just the way my
Hmm.
brain goes, but what was
Hmm.
your intention?
You know, I love epistolary, number one. If I could write all my stories in either epistolary or second person present tense, that's what I would do. Those are my two favorite delivery methods. However, the audience isn't going to tolerate that constantly, so I've got to go back and forth, you know. Um, I think my novel one of my novels previous to this, I Was a Teenage Slasher, is also epistolary. Let's see, Leadfeather was epistolary. The Long Trial of Nolan Nagati was epistolary. So I may be maxing out. I may not get to do one for a while, you know?
Have
It
to
is
take
my
a break.
favorite. Yeah, I do have to take a break. Can't be a one-trick pony, you know? But I think the big reason, I guess there's two big reasons it's epistolary. The first is that I really wanted to use those long dashes that Arthur uses in his journal.
You say that in your acknowledgments that you're obsessed with these long dashes.
I am, yeah. I mean, I picked him up from some old Nabokov I was reading, and he does that. And I remember when I read that, I'm like, I thought he was smart, but now I know he's a genius, you know, that he did these long dashes. They're amazing. And the other reason it's just tactical, I guess. It's arguing with editors is so much easier when it's epistolary because they'll say, you can't do a daily modifier. And I'll say, I know, that's stupid, but that's a character, that's not me, you know?
Nice. It's interesting. I mean, listen, what
Mhm,
I take from it too is, and this is clearly perhaps not your intent, but
mhm,
because it's also bookended by Etsy and by
mhm.
academia, it also feels like who gets to tell these stories, which
Yeah.
words get to be used, who passes down the knowledge, and basically who has the power in these situations. And I feel like that's very present in this story as well.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And, you know, I guess, I mean, once I finished it and looked back at it, I realized that we really have no like objective confirmation that Good Stab ever existed. You know,
Right.
Arthur could have made Good Stab up, or Etsy could be making Arthur and Good Stab up, you know?
I like that. I like that
Hmm.
it's all loose.
Hmm.
Okay, we're getting close to time.
Hmm.
So, what do I want to ask you about another thing? Is there anything else about the book that you want to talk about in particular, or no?
Man, I was so lucky that Saga kicked up that excellent cover. I really like that cover.
The cover's
That
sweet.
buffalo. Yeah, I like it a lot.
The
I
cover's
like
really
it.
sweet. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. Oh, I wanted to say one thing though.
Hmm.
I don't think this is a spoiler, but more
Hmm.
of it's a fangirl thing. But I loved how you created this situation where Good Stab, when he feeds, he starts to feel like experience become
Hmm.
the beings that he is feeding off of.
Hmm.
And there's just such a tragedy in that he loses his humanity and his
Hmm.
experience of his culture and can only find it through killing people that are like him. I found that to be incredibly devastating.
Oh, thank you. I mean, I feel bad about that, that you felt devastated,
I do, but
but
that's the point, right? That's what you're
yeah,
trying to do.
that is the point. Yeah, I mean, I think that um, for too long now, I say too long, probably about the last 20, 25 years, vampirism has kind of become a superpower that you are lucky enough to get. Like it's a gift. Like, oh, I can live forever and I can do all these things and my investments mature, you know, if I live long enough, all that good stuff. But I'm convinced, I guess the vampire I believe in the best is the vampire that is kind of a tragic figure that's cursed, that this vampirism is not what they would ever, ever, ever choose. And, you know, you're talking about acting, this actually, and the reason I gave Good Stab this kind of, I don't know, that he becomes what he eats is a book I read, a little bitty short book by William Rabkin called Writing the TV Pilot, where he
Mm,
talks about when you're designing a show, a series, you want to have a central conflict for the main character that's basically unsolvable, such that it can arch across multiple seasons. And and that's why I gave Goodstab a basically unsolvable problem. He wants to be the avenger of his people, but to stay Blackfeet, he has to feed on Blackfeet, and that's basically an unsolvable problem, I
it
think.
is an unsolvable problem, and it
Hmm.
is very emotional and very much a tragedy.
Hmm.
Um, okay, I will move on to the final couple things. So,
Hmm.
I haven't figured out how to frame this question, but the book club
Hmm.
that we started is a Madwoman's library.
Hmm.
And the idea comes from Jane Eyre, from this like sense that there's this crazy lady in the attic and,
Hmm.
she's unhinged. And I
Yeah.
wanted to
She's
free
she's Jamaican, isn't she? What's her name? E
Is
something?
it Bertha?
Bertha. Yeah, it's
Yes,
Bertha.
it's
That's it.
Bertha.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
But there's the idea that there's so much that we have to keep locked up in an attic. There's so many things that we just call crazy and we hide away. And I was
Mhm.
wondering if there's anything, any idea, any concept, any
Mm.
part of yourself, any part of the world that you feel like we've locked up and should free.
Oh man, that sounds like a werewolf story, doesn't it? You gotta let the you gotta let the you gotta let the beast out and run 3 days a
Yeah,
month,
yeah,
or
yeah.
it's gonna come out anyways, right? Let me think. I do. Well, actually, it's horror. That's my answer. It's horror because I don't feel like, I guess it's fact that we came up on the savannah for 6 million years, losing any sharp claws we had, losing any teeth, losing our speed, losing our camouflage. We traded it all in to have these big brains,
Mm,
which ultimately worked out. But I think it was a rough going for 6 million years because we were the chicken nuggets of the prairie. Eagles, leopards, everything could eat us, and we were good eating too. We didn't have fur or feathers to deal with. We were quite nice, but the result of being prey for so long is that we got horror hardwired into us. We Those teeth in the darkness slavering for us became part of our identity. But now, the past 200 years, we shine light in all the dark corners. We
mm,
sterilize all the surfaces, and
mhm,
we kind of do everything we can to push horror away from us. The problem with that is it's still hardwired into us.
mm.
So when we engage a horror story in whatever way we engage it, then we get to feel human a little bit. I think we've pushed horror down too much, and we need to feel that fear. We need to sense those teeth in the darkness again.
Amazing. Well, I
Mhm.
think that's a great place to stop. Thank you so much, Stephen. It was lovely, lovely, lovely speaking with you.
It
Appreciate
was
it.
wonderful talking to you. Thank you very
Yeah,
much.
thank you.